Hi, thank you for tuning into our Perspective series. I'm John Townend, Head of Legal Services at Konexo, and I was recently joined by a panel of senior in-house lawyers to discuss the practicalities and benefits of working with alternative legal service providers. I spoke with Vanya Bromfield from Smith's Group, Chris Dye from Johnson Controls, Anna Lawrence from Elementis Global, and Kate Newbound from HSBC. There follows 4 video clips of around 10 minutes each, which cover the main points of the discussion. I hope you find these useful, and thanks again for watching. In this first section, we talk about recent trends in legal transformation. One of my follow-up questions was just around legal transformation trends. And for us, we've definitely seen an acceleration, I would say, in what clients had planned, brought about by pressures of the pandemic and changing business requirements and quite, the typical quandary for most legal teams, more work flowing in and not the same ability to just keep adding headcount indefinitely. So presents the need to transform, and things that have been around for a long time actually suddenly over the last 12 months have been progressed at real pace. So I was hoping to keep us sort of looking forward rather than looking too far back, but I wondered what the group had been evaluating in terms of ALSPs or might be planning to look at in the future. And we have got a real range here. Kate, for example, I know you've been working with ALSPs for a number of years, and Anna much earlier stages at Elementis. But I thought it'd be good to just see what you have in mind for the next 12 to 18 months, if anything. Maybe Kate, if I could perhaps come to you first.
Yeah, sure. We're on our second generation outsourcing effectively to ALSP. So I think we've probably, in terms of our transformation journey, I think we feel like we're on our second one. We're kind of going through a process. So at the moment, we're relatively early on in our new relationships. So we're still very much in that kind of transformation mindset. And I think what we see for the next 12 months is move that to BAU and try and change faster than we have historically. I think we've been guilty of having kind of transformation agendas that last 6 months, and we have a big super burst of amazing activity, and then it kind of falls off the radar, and then we get back to our old ways and nothing changes. So I think what we'd like and hope for the future is that we keep transformation as being not a project, as being part of what we do on a day-to-day basis. And I think that's the future for us. It's kind of just keeping the change coming day to day.
Yeah, excellent. And Anna, we've had a couple of conversations. I wonder how your thoughts are forming over the foreseeable future.
I guess sort of use of ALSPs and what you're going to externalize is sort of one part, albeit an important part, of the overall transformation that is happening at Elementis that John, you and I have already discussed a bit, but for everyone else, I sort of stepped into this role with no attorneys in the team and with effectively all legal work being externalized to law firms. So what I'm trying to do is rebalance that. So look at what it makes sense to do ourselves internally and what resource I need for that, both in terms of new roles and to externalize. So obviously to support business cases, to get sort of new roles signed off, I had to sort of define how I saw it. And from my perspective, and very interested in others' sort of point of view on this, I feel that sort of with a small, high-performing team of lawyers, especially sort of mid-level lawyers who, as we know, are just having job offers thrown at them left, right, and centre at the moment, you have to keep yourself attractive as an employer, basically. And so my answer, or part of the answer of how to do that, is make sure that they have a good varied diet of stimulating work that they can learn and grow in doing, and not get any of them sort of stuck and bogged down in doing constant, non-negotiated NDAs or just small value procurement contracts, things of that nature. So for those reasons, I am looking to externalize that type of activity. So it's on the sort of commoditizable, as well as obviously the other end, which is totally specialized stuff that you're never going to have in a small team, the expertise that you need to do. But it's sort of those ends of the spectrum that I target to outsource and try and keep everything else in-house. And that's because, probably like we all do these days, I see the legal team as the business partners who should be looking around the corners, talking to people on a daily basis and know what they're planning. And I think only the in-house team is positioned to do that properly.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And Chris, how does that fit with your own plans?
Yeah, I've got to say, it was really interesting, Anna. That's exactly my experience. I think, the mid-level people are, highly prized and they're good, and when you lose them, it's so painful because they've got so much knowledge. So we've done this with Konexo, Jonathan, to a large extent. The day-to-day work, shifting that to Konexo, and they do an excellent job. And I think the experience we've had with Konexo is we were expecting to go down a more kind of commoditized route. And to your point, what we were going to be doing with yourselves is actually turned out that you're doing more kind of complex, but I would say routine work. So, for example, a 250,000 to 500,000 pound construction contract. We never really thought you'd be helping with that, but you are, and it's great. I can take that away from the team because for them that's quite routine now. So, when they would be doing piles and piles of that work, they're now leading on M&A and doing the kind of bolt-on transactions, and they're doing more interesting stuff because otherwise they'll just, they're just going to move somewhere else unless you give them that experience. So that's a real value add. You can help with our kind of lumpiness of the commercial work that comes through. That's really, really important. But I think, Anna, to your point, equally important is giving your in-house team the ability to do other things, frankly, and you shouldn't underestimate the value of that.
There are certain things, aren't there, that the in-house lawyers are just uniquely placed to do. Those relationships that they've got, the ability to sort of partner up with the business, keep horizon scanning and looking down the line. That's very difficult to replicate anywhere else. And usually that's the exciting, that's quite the exciting stuff that they would like to be focused on anyway. How does that work at Smiths, Vanya? Is that similar process?
Yeah, I mean, we've been fortunate sort of in the legal team that we've partnered with our colleagues who work in our Smiths Excellence, our SES Academy. And sort of through that process, quite a few of us have been doing Lean Six Sigma Green Belt courses. I'm doing a black belt actually at the moment. And we're sort of using that process to really soup to nuts, sort of understand what it is that we're actually doing. We sort of, obviously, as everyone said, the sort of drain on resources, we're not getting a growing increase in numbers of headcount. So it's just sort of looking at particular budgets. Can you do more with the same amount and sort of release the strain on our sort of lawyers so they can work on more strategic work? That said, we sort of felt that it was quite important to actually understand what it is that people are working on and sort of try and almost get some metrics so that we can start to measure as we're putting in place sort of new resourcing initiatives to see that they're working. So one of the things that we're trying to do is sort of run side by side sort of two projects. So firstly, project for me, just to sort of start thinking about alternative ways of sort of resourcing within the team. And again, for that more sort of commoditized, sort of low to medium value, low to medium risk type work. But also as a sort of add-on to that, to actually run a green belt so that we can start to develop the metrics as well, so that going forward we can actually see, well, if someone was spending 60% of their time doing sort of fairly routine low value work, if we put in place various initiatives now around resourcing, has that dynamic and that blend changed? And hopefully, yes, we'll see those figures start to go down.